Hello everyone, this is Jorge Diaz, President and Founder of Larry Jacob Internet Marketing, and I bring you another episode of Defining Business Success. This week, my guest is Mychal Edelman. How are you, Mychal?
I'm doing awesome. I am at home, as you can see today, in sunny San Diego, and it's so nice out, I have to brag, that I had to put the blinds down for this call. So I'm feeling lucky that we're having a sun-filled December.
Well, I'm in Miami, and so I got to turn this off, otherwise I get too much backlight. But I'm in Miami, Florida, and as a matter of fact, it's a little hotter than it should be right now, but we're not dealing with 3 feet of snow like the Canadians and the Northwesterners are doing. So
no, we're feeling pretty good where we are, Jorge.
Cool. So Mychal and I were speaking back at PartnerCon. This was at the beginning of October. And one of the things that he shared with me is that there's a solution out there, it's going to be released somewhat soon, that enables Infusionsoft users to gain access to more than 100 custom fields. And if you are an Infusionsoft person, you know that this is a really big deal, because if you've ever wanted to build questionnaire type programs, things that are gathering a lot of data, you know that Infusionsoft is a dead end because you hit 100 and there's just no way past that. Right, Mychal?
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically, contact custom fields, right?
Right.
There's a lot of historical data that maybe we're keeping in our Infusionsoft applications because we know we'll need it at some point, but it is taking up those beloved slots, if you will, and we only have 100 of those. So the Get You Wired team, some of you are familiar with Dobbin Buck, Melissa Allen, and Bobby Brown, have built a solution, and they kind of tapped me and said, hey, we want you to get early access and play around. So over the last couple weeks, I've had the opportunity to tap into their solution, which they call Field Space, and kind of test it out, report on some of the alpha and beta bugs that are going on inside of their plugin, and they've gotten to a point where they're ready to launch come January 1st.
Nice.
So that's the date they're shooting for. And if you're looking for more than 100 custom fields, this is going to be a fun call for you, because we're actually going to go into the software or the plugin and show you kind of how it works and the functionality that exists inside of Field Space.
Cool. And we usually don't do screen shares, but it just made sense for this presentation. So, and Mychal, so people know you're an Infusionsoft guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role at Infusionsoft is I am the technical account manager for our trusted advisor. So I work with our trusted advisor group.
Mm-hmm.
What all that means is it's a mouthful, but I work with the folks that have really large followings that use Infusionsoft, and
Right.
sometimes they need more advanced solutions in order to solve. Previous to this position that I have at Infusionsoft, some of you may know I ran the mastermind calls for Infusionsoft. So during that stint, I kind of went on a run of going through a lot of the apps in the marketplace, whether it was a texting solution or something with analytics or displaying your dashboards. We did a ton of behind-the-scenes tours of some of the apps out there. So I'm excited to tap back into that today with you all.
Cool. So enough about that. So why don't we have you share your screen with us and just give us a tour of this.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to hop into the test application that we have here. And you should be seeing my screen now. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can see your screen, and FYI, we can also see you, so it's not the time to start getting funny.
Okay, cool. I'll keep my clothes on just for this presentation.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Sounds good. So we're going to hop into the application, and what Field Space does for you is it provides a layover functionality where while you're inside of the software, you can see, and I'll zoom in a little bit here, you can see there's a sidebar available to you. So you'll notice there's a couple of options here, and I'm going to go through each of them, but the first place that we're going to want to go is going to be into your Field Space fields area. Now, where this takes you should look familiar, and it is familiar. It is the custom field area of Infusionsoft, right? So
and specifically, it's for the contact, right?
It's for the contact, yep. We're in the contact custom field setups area. So you can go the old-fashioned way, right? You go to the main navigation, hop into your admin settings, and then click over. But what FieldSpace did, which is nice, is you can just click your FieldSpace fields. It pops you to a shortcut right here. And then they've given you this nice scroll down for FieldSpace information link. You can click that, and guess what? Right below your custom fields, you have your quote-unquote field space area, which you can now set up your custom fields. So for today, we're just going to go through an example of how you can add more fields to field space and how those fields interact with your native Infusionsoft database. Right?
So you basically allocate how many additional fields you want, and I guess right now you have 100 extra ones over the standard ones that you get with Infusionsoft.
Exactly. Yep, you have your 100 custom fields from Infusionsoft, and in this version of FieldSpace that I have 100 extra custom fields to play around with inside of their external database, right? So these fields do not use up any of the 100 fields inside of Infusionsoft.
Gotcha.
So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of walk through some of their functionality of creating the organization of fields inside of FieldSpace. It's very similar to Infusionsoft, so I love the interface that they built.
Yeah, this is not what I expected. This seems really nice.
It should be pretty transferable to people that have used fields previously. So you can see we have some example tabs here. So the structure is the same as Infusionsoft. We have our tabs, so we're going to go ahead and create a new tab today. And the example that we're going to use is we'll use a lawyer. So we're gonna do case information here. So we'll pretend we have some fields for a lawsuit that's going on or a law firm that's going on, and we're going to save that tab. So we now have a tab called case information, right? And obviously inside of that tab we can create some fields. So you'll notice when I click on the tab, what they also have done is they've made it editable in the tab area. So if I need to change the name of that tab at any point, I can edit it pretty quickly and then click save, or if I need to delete that tab name, I can delete that element as well. But we're not going to do any deleting today. We're just going to quickly add some header in here, and I'm just going to put accident info, right? And then obviously inside of the header, we want to add a field, right? So it's that nice progression that we're used to inside of Infusionsoft. You'll notice we have text, date, and drop-down fields. Here's the good news is whether you have a field in Infusionsoft or here, these are actually the 3 data types that Infusionsoft allows. So you'll see in a second we're going to talk about archiving old fields to FieldSpace. Even if it's not a text, date, or drop-down field, not a problem, because Infusionsoft can archive any field as a text or a date or a drop-down field, right? So if you're using a whole number field, for example, right, there's nothing to worry about. We can store that whole number in FieldSpace. It just transfers it into a text field.
And there's also a text area?
The text area is going to be in the text field itself, and FieldSpace is built nicely, so it kind of expands to that larger field type, which you'll see on a contact record in just a second. So let's go ahead and add a text field. We're just going to call this our emergency contact for now.
Okay.
On our example tab that we're building here, and we're going to create a text field, and then we're going to go ahead and save that. Bada boom. So you'll see right away inside of the case information tab, we now have our accident info and we have our emergency contact, right?
Okay.
And what that allows us to do is it allows us to not only store information in FieldSpace without taking up a field inside of Infusionsoft, right? But you can see in this area, we have this FieldSpace has this, I'm not sure what to call it, but a designation where it shows you created a new FieldSpace field. Why is that important? Because I just mentioned we can actually archive fields. So there's really 2 main ways that I've found as I use this plugin to store information in FieldSpace. The first of which is to create a new field like we just did, and I'll show you how you can access that in just a second on a contact record. But the second And equally as important, and maybe even more important for some of you users out there, is the ability to archive fields. So we've created this case information tab, and we have this accident info area. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some old fields, right? So maybe we have some historical fields that we know we need, but we need to open up more contact fields inside of Infusionsoft. We can archive them, right? So we're going to go ahead, and you might have noticed this initially, but there's these check boxes here, right? So what we can do is we can actually check the field. So now the scenario that I kind of imagine is I have a 5,000 person database, and these are fields that I know I want to be able to access later, export, search, and those types of things. But I need 3 Infusionsoft fields, maybe to merge new information into emails or to put on a web form or those types of things. So I can check these boxes off because we want to move them over to field space. So once you check the fields that you want, and you can see some of these have already been complete, you can come over and you can click the button Archive to Field Space. Now, I thought this was a really cool feature that they added because this allows you to essentially store, and we'll put it on our example tab, right? So it's saying, where would you like to store that data? We're going to choose the tab in the header. This should be familiar for Infusionsoft users. We're going to click Save, and it's going to actually process in the background. And I don't have a ton of data or contacts in this test account that I'm using.
Yeah, so it's going to happen quickly.
Imagine this could pass thousands of data points over from Infusionsoft's database to FieldSpace's database. And now here's the cool thing. It shows you, yes, we have successfully passed the data, and you're a smart guy. You can probably guess what we can do with this field inside of Infusionsoft now, right? We can, in order to open it up, we can delete that information, right? So if we scroll down to the field under case information one more time, you'll notice the 3 fields that we archived have their status here, so we can see the difference between a newly created field and an archive field inside of FieldSpace. And that would give us the opportunity then to delete these fields and open up more fields inside of Infusionsoft. At this point, is there any questions that come to mind? What are you thinking of kind of what they have here?
I mean, for me, the vocabulary of archiving is a little bit, you know, not clear, but I mean, now that you've explained it, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, you can take it. You can take an old, and maybe archiving is something is vocabulary that they can work on. So they're in beta with this, and that's something that they'll be able to work on. But essentially, we're looking to take old fields and open up new fields inside of Infusionsoft for you, especially if you're hitting those upper limits of 100 fields.
For sure.
So the next thing that I want to show you is, now that we have these field space fields, what is the value of them in terms of interacting on a daily basis with the contact, right? So we have our accident info, our case information, and we're actually going to hop over into a contact search. And for today, I've created just a couple of contacts that we can play with. But you can hop into any contact record inside of Infusionsoft. And what you'll see is you have all of your fields. And I thought this was such a cool feature that Dobbin and Bobby and their team built. It's built right into the software. You can click your field space tab, and then right here you'll have access. And obviously we have the test fields, but here's the case information tab that we built.
So that's just the header, like you would have on other tabs.
Yeah, they kind of built these sub tabs in here, which will give you access to, you can create more and more tabs inside of your field space tab, which is a really nice feature there. Now, another really neat thing that I found by accident, actually, is the ability to reorganize these fields in a really, really neat way. So I'm going to keep this open and take note of the order that they display. We have emergency contact, case ID, type of incident, and accident date. Well, if I come back into our field space area, and I'm going to go ahead and open up another tab, which is really just the custom field area, we can actually reorganize how those fields display in a really, really nice way. Let me go ahead and refresh this page. It's coming in nice and slow. Come on. load up for us. There we go. So we have it. We have our fields displaying. So if I come over to the case information, and we actually want to make a change to where the fields are located, watch this. And this, to me, it was a cool thing. You let me know what you think. You can grab, drag, and drop the fields wherever you'd like. And just by doing that, it reorganizes it. And if you want to move them from tab to tab, let's say I wanted to move this from the text conversation tab over to case, I can go to the tab and then drop it
that's pretty sweet.
into the area, right? So it's a pretty nice, unique functionality that maybe Infusionsoft picks up at some point, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know the arrows.
Yeah, and here's the thing is, today you're limited in how you can use the custom fields just because there aren't enough of them. But if you get used to using this, and for example, in the past I had to tell a customer that wanted to, just do a lot of questionnaires as part of a coaching program, and I had to say, look, you can't do it. But if this were the case, then reorganizing the field and reorganizing the tabs becomes a lot more important, because you may want to change that as the program evolves, and doing it with the Infusionsoft interface is just kind of tedious.
Yeah, it is, with the blue arrows that we've known to love and hate over time.
Yeah.
Here to move them up and down. But yeah, so that's really neat. And just to show you how this affects it, if we go back to our example and I refresh the page, right? It's real time. When I come over to the field space tab and click in, you'll see that the order has changed, right, based on how I dragged and dropped it, which is pretty nice. The other thing we can do is obviously store data here now, right? So if I make a change and you're my emergency contact, and then I click off, it recognizes there's a difference, and I can then update that data to the field space database, which is nice. Now, we've made it kind of through the first portion of what I wanted to show you on today's call, because this to me, this is pretty cool. You can store extra custom fields, and you can get rid of old fields, but not totally get rid of them, right? We're just storing them not in Infusionsoft, but you'll have access to them. With that being said, I'd like to pause and talk about a couple of, I don't want to call them gotchas, but because I talked to the Get You Wired team, and they basically said, this is something that's coming downstream, but things you want to be aware of as you're using field space. The first of which is you probably don't want to store or archive fields from Infusionsoft to field space that are currently on an active web form, or that you're using the data in an Infusionsoft custom field to do a decision diamond, right?
Okay.
And the reason being is if you delete that information from Infusionsoft, or you delete that field from Infusionsoft, obviously that's going to remove that field from the form that's active, and there won't be a place for it.
Michael, since we're talking, why don't you unshare your screen so you're looking a little bit bigger?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
So that's one thing to be aware of, is if the field is active on a form, you want to be careful with the fields that you're archiving.
Sure.
And that might be a no-duh for a lot of us who are watching this, but it's something that I do want to call out.
Yeah.
And the good news is, go ahead.
Yeah, and then is it going to show up in my merge field box, in my emails and in my legacy emails everywhere?
I love that question. And that was the second kind of, just to be aware. As of yet in version 1, they will not show up in the merge field area. That is something that the development team at Get You Wired is chipping away at right now. But here's the good news. If you know you have a field that is active on a form, or you need to merge it into an email, keep it as an Infusionsoft field, right? And then you move all the quote-unquote inactive fields from Infusionsoft to field space to open up additional custom field area for the version 1 of this, right? And hopefully for all of us, we get merging and the ability to use their fields on web forms at some point.
Okay, so that's kind of like a coming soonish sort of thing.
Yep.
Because that would then be the because that would then be the full circle, where now you have the ability to define these, the ability to use web forms to make decisions off of them. And if I want to chain a bunch of questionnaires together, then that's how I would take advantage of those new fields, right?
Yep. Absolutely, and I'm totally with you. I have my fingers crossed that that comes sooner rather than later. But I'm really really pleased with how this works from a version 1 standpoint, and I think there's a ton of value here for anyone who has hit that ceiling at this point.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely the merge fields is going to be something that takes it to a whole nother level inside of the software.
Have they already discussed or announced what the pricing for this might be?
You know what? That's not something I'm attuned to, unfortunately.
Okay.
But when I was going on this call, I let them know, hey, I want to show this to the partner community and what's going on, and they said launch in January, beginning of January. So if you're looking at timetable in terms of pricing, it's got to come pretty soon, right?
Cool.
So I guess when we're done with this recording and you post it, if the pricing's out, we'll make sure to include a link to that.
Cool.
On the page that we get this going. So if anyone's watching this and wants to know, you can click through. But there is one more thing for me to show you from a functionality standpoint.
Okay.
Are you excited to see it?
Oh, I can't wait. I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. Because there is a functionality that I was curious if it would or wouldn't be inside of inside of Field Space, and thankfully it is. And that is the ability to search the data. So you can see my screen. We put you in as an emergency contact for EJ. We want to be able to search Field Space data with Infusionsoft data, right?
Okay.
So by popping open the Field Space option here, we can come where it says New Contact Search. We can click into New Contact Search. And what this does, and it took me a second to kind of figure it out, is it's a two-step search. So if I wanted all of the people, in Alabama who also had you as their emergency contact, I would first search the Infusionsoft criteria, and then I would add the second step of criteria, which is the Field Space criteria, right?
That was well thought through.
Which I thought was clever, yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. We know that there's a group of folks here that we have as a test group. So we're going to do the Infusionsoft tag search first. And then what appears is we can filter inside of FS. So when we click in here, this pops up all of your fields, and it says, which fields do you want to sort by? And in this case, I'm going to look for you because we typed you in as an emergency contact, and I'm going to search. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I have to do an exact search.
Yeah, could it be capital J?
Yeah, we'll take a look and see. And this is the live demo, so let's see what happens.
Oh, demos never work when you're like in front of a camera, of course.
Of course. Well, especially in the early stages of this. But that's what I think is so cool about this call, because it truly is. It truly is before we get to market, right? So let's go ahead and try one more time here. I think I saved you.
No, you did. You did.
There you go. So yeah, it was.
Very good.
It took the full name there. So they might need to add some sort of filtering in the search to allow you to do contains, like Infusionsoft has, or does not contain.
Does not contain.
Yeah. But for now, it looks like you have to use the exact parameters of whatever you typed in, which is still a huge step, right? Because now you can combine your external fields with your internal fields in terms of searching. So,
well, yeah. I tell you what, it's definitely exciting to see that something like this is underway, and that it seems to be very useful or usable.
Yeah, definitely. So you know what? I've been trying to think of like the best use cases for this, and I think that the most obvious one is people that are using a lot of custom fields, but this might open up a whole new world of potential for people who need to store a lot of data that haven't thought of Infusionsoft as a potential solution for what they're doing because of those limitations.
Yeah.
Now that we kind of kick that door down with this, I'd be interested to see if there's people who start to use it for things like practice management or case management or things like that.
Well,
that we don't really see
as people start scheming, it's kind of like, oh, you can do this other thing, and it's only because of the fact that it's really an add-on. So very nice, very nice. Well, hey, Mychal, thank you so much for sharing this sneak peek with us. We'll make sure when we publish this to provide some information on how people can learn more about this. And gosh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And obviously, if anyone has any questions, both of us are here to follow up with. And have a good rest of your afternoon, is it? How late is it there? Evening, almost.
Right now, it's about 3, so we're good. Okay, hey, have a good one.
See you later. Bye-bye.